Every Friday, millions of people feel the same emotion: relief. Not because they became wealthier, not because they moved closer to financial freedom, but because their paycheck finally arrived. Think about that for a second. If missing just one payday would completely change your life, are you really building wealth? Or are you simply renting your lifestyle every 2 weeks? Most people never ask that question. Instead, they celebrate promotions, negotiate raises, and proudly announce higher salaries. Yet something strange keeps happening. The more money they earn, the less financially free they seem to become. Someone earning $40,000 dreams of making $80,000. Someone making $80,000 believes $150,000 will solve everything. Then the person earning $150,000 looks at someone making $500,000 and thinks they've finally escaped. But years later, many of them are still stressed about money. Why? Because the problem was never the size of the paycheck. The problem was believing the paycheck itself was the solution. And that's exactly where the salary trap begins. Imagine two people standing on opposite sides of a river. The first person receives a bucket of water every Friday. The second person owns a small pipe that quietly delivers water every single day. At first, the bucket looks better. It's bigger. It feels more valuable. But the moment someone forgets to bring that bucket, the water stops. The pipe keeps flowing whether its owner is awake, asleep, on vacation, or even sick. Money works the same way. Most people spend their entire lives chasing bigger buckets, while the wealthy spend theirs building pipes. That's one of the biggest financial differences nobody teaches in school. Here's something that might surprise you. The salary system wasn't created to make you financially free. It was created to exchange certainty for time. Your employer knows exactly how much they'll pay you. You know exactly when you'll get paid. It's predictable, comfortable, safe, and that's why so many people never question it. But predictability has a hidden price. The moment your income depends entirely on showing up tomorrow, your freedom becomes attached to someone else's decision. If the company struggles, your income struggles. If the economy slows, your income slows. If your position disappears, your financial life can change overnight. That's an incredible amount of power to place in a single paycheck. Now don't misunderstand this. Having a job isn't the problem. A salary has helped millions of families build stable lives. It pays bills. It feeds children. It creates opportunities. The problem begins when your salary becomes your only financial strategy. Because relying on one source of income is a bit like trying to sit on a one-legged chair. It works, until it doesn't. Let's meet Michael. He's 29 years old. He finally landed the job he'd dreamed about since university. Good office. Great co-workers. Excellent salary. His parents couldn't have been prouder. So he celebrated. He upgraded his apartment. Bought a newer car. Started eating at nicer restaurants. Subscribed to services he never used. None of these decisions felt irresponsible. Each one seemed affordable. After all, his salary had increased. But something unexpected happened. 6 months later, Michael received another raise. Instead of feeling wealthier, he barely noticed. The extra money disappeared almost as quickly as it arrived. Higher rent, higher insurance, more expensive weekends, bigger expectations. Without realizing it, his lifestyle had quietly grown around every new dollar he earned. His income was climbing. His freedom wasn't. This is one of the most powerful tricks money plays on the human mind. We don't measure wealth by what we keep. We measure success by what we can afford. And those are two completely different games. One builds appearances. The other builds freedom. Most people spend decades mastering the first, while almost nobody teaches the second. The salary trap. The system that keeps you working forever. Have you ever noticed something strange? The day before payday, you're counting every dollar. Then your salary arrives. And for a few hours, you feel rich. Maybe you order your favorite meal. Buy something you've been looking at online. Tell yourself, I've earned it. A week later, that feeling is gone. Nothing dramatic happened. No emergency. No financial disaster. Yet somehow your bank account looks almost exactly the way it did before payday. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much water you pour in, it never stays full. Most people believe their financial problems will disappear once they earn more. That sounds logical. If you're struggling on $3,000 a month, surely $6,000 will change everything. Sometimes it does. For a little while. Then something almost invisible begins to happen. Your definition of normal changes. The apartment that once felt luxurious now feels ordinary. The car you dreamed about suddenly feels outdated. The phone you loved last year somehow feels old. Not because you need better things, but because your expectations quietly moved upward. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. It's our tendency to quickly get used to improvements until they no longer make us happier. The salary trap depends on this. Because if every raise feels normal after a few months, you'll keep chasing the next one. Imagine climbing a staircase. You think reaching the next step will finally let you rest. But every time you climb one, someone secretly builds another. That's what lifestyle inflation feels like. You aren't climbing toward freedom. You're climbing toward a more expensive version of the same life. The view changes. The pressure doesn't. Let's meet another character. Her name is Emma. At 25, she shared an apartment with 2 friends. She cooked most of her meals, drove a reliable used car. She managed to save nearly 20% of every paycheck. Then she got promoted. Her salary jumped by $25,000. Everyone congratulated her. She deserved it. Within a year, she moved into a luxury apartment. She leased a brand new SUV, started ordering food instead of cooking, booked vacations on her credit card because she could pay them off later. From the outside, Emma looked successful. Beautiful apartment, nice car, designer clothes, weekend trips. But behind the scenes, she had less money saved than she did before her promotion. She wasn't becoming wealthier. She was becoming more expensive to maintain. And those are not the same thing. Here's something wealthy people understand that most people don't. Every financial decision has 2 prices. The first is the price on the tag. The second is the amount of future freedom it costs you. A $50,000 car isn't just a $50,000 purchase. It's years of insurance, fuel, maintenance, repairs, taxes, and hundreds of hours you'll spend working just to keep it. The true cost of anything isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in time. Because unlike money, time can never be earned back. Now ask yourself a difficult question. If tomorrow your salary doubled, would your savings double too? Or would your lifestyle simply grow to absorb the extra income? For most people, the answer is obvious. The bigger the paycheck, the bigger the commitments. A nicer neighborhood, a larger mortgage, more subscriptions, more monthly payments, more obligations. Each one seems harmless on its own. Together, they quietly build a financial cage. And here's the dangerous part. Most cages don't look like cages. They look like success. The wealthiest people often don't look as wealthy as you expect. Meanwhile, many people who look rich are borrowing their future just to maintain the image. That's because appearances can be financed. Freedom cannot. Real wealth isn't measured by the car parked outside your house. It's measured by how long you could comfortably live if your paycheck stopped tomorrow. That single number tells a far more honest story than any luxury purchase ever could. But if earning more isn't enough, and spending less isn't the complete answer, then what separates people who spend their entire lives working from those who eventually make money work for them? The answer has nothing to do with working harder. It has everything to do with understanding a game most people don't even realize they're playing. And that's where the salary trap begins to lose its power. Because the real difference isn't how much money you earn, it's what your money starts earning for you. Imagine 2 neighbors. Every morning, they leave home at exactly 7:30. They both drive nice cars. They both wear expensive watches. They both earn 6 figures. From the outside, their lives look almost identical. But there's one difference nobody can see. The first neighbor wakes up every day asking, "How can I earn more money?" The second wakes up asking, "How can my money earn more money?" It sounds like a small difference. It's not. It's the difference between running on a treadmill and owning the treadmill. Here's a question that completely changed the way I think about money. If you stopped working today, would your money continue working tomorrow? For most people, the answer is no. The moment they stop showing up, their income disappears. That's because they've spent years building active income, but almost no time building income-producing assets. And that's the invisible line separating high earners from truly wealthy people. Think of money as employees. Most people only have one employee, themselves. Every dollar they earn comes from their own time and effort. If they stop working, their only employee clocks out too. Now imagine hiring your first financial employee. Maybe it's a dividend-paying investment. Maybe it's a rental property. Maybe it's a business. Maybe it's a digital product that continues selling while you sleep. That asset starts bringing in money without asking for overtime. Then you hire another, and another. Eventually, your money begins producing income alongside you. One day, it may even replace you. That's how wealth quietly grows. Not overnight, but over time. Let's look at two friends who graduated from college together. James and Daniel both landed jobs paying $70,000 a year. For the first few years, they lived almost identical lives. Then their choices began to separate. James spent every raise improving his lifestyle. Better apartment, luxury furniture, a new SUV, premium memberships. Everything looked impressive. Daniel made different decisions. Whenever he received a raise, he increased his investments before increasing his spending. He bought assets first, lifestyle second. For years, James appeared wealthier. His social media looked better. His vacations looked better. His wardrobe looked better. But 10 years later, the picture completely changed. Daniel's investments were producing income every single month. Some of them even earned money while he was asleep. James was still relying on the next paycheck. Not because he earned less, because he owned less. This is one of the biggest misconceptions about wealth. Rich isn't always what you see. Sometimes wealth looks surprisingly ordinary. The person driving a 5-year-old car might own businesses. The woman living in a modest house may have investments quietly growing every day. Meanwhile, the person living in the biggest house on the street could be making enormous monthly payments just to keep it. That's why appearances are such a dangerous financial guide. Looking wealthy and becoming wealthy often require completely opposite decisions. But here's where things become even more interesting. The salary trap doesn't just affect your wallet. It changes your thinking. When your survival depends entirely on your next paycheck, you naturally become more cautious. You avoid taking calculated risks. You delay starting that business you've been dreaming about. You hesitate to invest in yourself. You stay in jobs that make you miserable because leaving feels too dangerous. Little by little, your financial dependence begins shaping your identity. Without realizing it, you stop asking, "What do I really want?" and start asking, "What can I afford to risk?" That's not freedom. That's survival disguised as stability. Now, don't misunderstand this. Building assets doesn't mean quitting your job tomorrow. In fact, your salary can become your greatest advantage if you stop treating it as the destination. Think of your paycheck as fuel. Most people burn all of it. The wealthy use part of it to build the engine that eventually replaces the fuel. That's the difference. The paycheck isn't the enemy. Depending on it forever is. So if the salary isn't the problem, and the solution isn't simply earning more, then what does the path to financial freedom actually look like? It starts with one decision that almost nobody makes. A decision so simple, yet so powerful, that it quietly separates those who stay trapped from those who eventually escape. And that's exactly what we'll uncover next. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, checking your phone, and seeing a message from your boss. "We need to talk." For some people, those 4 words are an inconvenience. For others, they're a nightmare. Not because they're afraid of losing the job. They're afraid of losing everything that depends on the job. The house, the car, the bills, the lifestyle. That's when people discover a painful truth. They don't own their life. Their paycheck does. Financial freedom doesn't begin when you become a millionaire. It begins the moment you stop making decisions out of fear. Fear keeps people in careers they hate. Fear stops them from asking for a raise. Fear prevents them from learning new skills. Fear convinces them to stay comfortable, even when comfort is quietly costing them their future. And fear grows strongest when you have no financial breathing room. That's why the first step to escaping the salary trap isn't getting rich. It's creating options. Think of your emergency fund as buying time. Every dollar you save isn't just money sitting in a bank account. It's another day you don't have to panic if life changes. Most people see savings as money they're not allowed to spend. The wealthy see savings as freedom they can afford to buy. There's a huge difference. One mindset feels like sacrifice. The other feels like power. Let's meet another person. His name is Daniel. For years, he lived like everyone around him. Every raise became an excuse to spend a little more. Until one day, his company announced layoffs. The office fell silent. People weren't worried about losing their careers. They were worried about losing next month's paycheck. Daniel went home that evening and did something he'd never done before. He calculated how long he could survive without working. The answer shocked him. 23 days. Not months. Days. He had worked for nearly 12 years. Yet less than 1 month separated him from financial disaster. That night changed everything. He didn't quit his job. He changed what happened after payday. Instead of upgrading his lifestyle every time his income increased, he upgraded his investments. He automated part of every paycheck into index funds. He paid off high-interest debt. He built a 6-month emergency fund. Later, he started a small online business on weekends. It didn't make much money at first, but it taught him something priceless. Income doesn't have to come from only one place. 5 years later, something remarkable happened. His salary was no longer carrying his entire life. His investments were growing. His side business was producing consistent income. For the first time, his boss needed him more than he needed his boss. That's real leverage. Here's something history teaches us over and over again. The people who build lasting wealth rarely rely on a single stream of income. Business owners, investors, creators, they understand one simple principle. Every dollar should eventually have a job. Some dollars pay today's bills. Others should be working to create tomorrow's income. That's how wealth compounds. Not just through money, but through patience. Now, let's be realistic. Building assets isn't glamorous. Nobody posts screenshots of automatic monthly investments on social media. Your friends probably won't notice that you skipped upgrading your car. People celebrate expensive purchases. They rarely celebrate smart financial decisions. But years later, the results speak louder than the applause ever could. Because while one person is still chasing the next raise, the other has quietly built a system that doesn't depend on one. This is the moment where most people get it backwards. They ask, how much do I need to retire? A better question is, how much income can my assets produce without me? That single shift changes everything. Because freedom isn't about reaching a magic number. It's about reaching a point where your life no longer depends on trading every hour for money. And once you understand that, the salary trap begins to lose its grip. But there's one final lesson. The biggest mistake isn't earning a salary. It's believing that a salary alone can make you financially free. And once you understand that difference, you'll never look at a paycheck the same way again. The salary trap, the system that keeps you working forever. Let's go back to the question we asked at the beginning. If your next paycheck never arrived, what would happen? Would you feel disappointed or terrified? Your answer reveals something most people never measure. Not your income, not your net worth, your freedom. Because freedom isn't having enough money to buy whatever you want. Freedom is having enough time and financial security to choose the life you want. And that's something a salary alone can never guarantee. There's an old saying, the golden cage is still a cage. Think about that. Some cages are made of steel. Others are made of luxury apartments, new cars, expensive vacations, and impressive salaries. From the outside, they look like success. From the inside, they still require permission to leave. That's why two people earning the exact same income can live completely different lives. One feels trapped. The other feels free. The difference isn't the paycheck. It's what they chose to do with it. Here's something that rarely gets talked about. The salary trap doesn't end when you earn more. It ends when you stop believing that more income automatically leads to more freedom. Those are two different goals. One is about earning. The other is about ownership. Every wealthy person eventually understands this. Employees earn income. Owners build systems. Investors own assets. Entrepreneurs create value that continues producing long after the work is finished. The goal isn't to become one overnight. The goal is to slowly move from depending on one source of income to building several. Even one small asset is a step toward freedom. So where do you begin? Not with $1 million. Not with quitting your job. Not with taking reckless risks. You begin with small decisions repeated consistently. Spend less than you earn. Build an emergency fund before upgrading your lifestyle. Invest regularly, even if the amount feels small. Learn skills that increase your value. Create something that can earn money outside your working hours. Protect your future self before rewarding your present self. None of these steps are exciting. That's exactly why they work. Most people are looking for a shortcut. Wealth is usually built through habits that seem boring. Until years later, when everyone wonders how you got so far ahead. Imagine your life 5 years from now. You receive another paycheck. But this time, it's not your only source of income. Your investments are growing. A small business brings in extra cash. Your savings can cover months of expenses. Your money is quietly working while you're spending time with your family, traveling, learning, or simply sleeping. Now imagine receiving a phone call from your employer. Your heart doesn't race anymore because your future isn't hanging by a single paycheck. That's what financial freedom feels like. Not unlimited luxury, not private jets. Peace, options, confidence, the ability to say no when something doesn't align with the life you want. Here's the truth. The system isn't unbeatable, but it does reward people who stop playing by default. Most people will spend decades chasing bigger salaries. A smaller group will quietly build assets. 20 years later, their lives will look completely different. Not because one group worked harder, but because one group learned the difference between earning money and building wealth. So the next time your paycheck arrives, don't ask yourself, what can I buy? Ask yourself, how much of this can I use to buy back my future? That one question has changed countless financial lives. And it might change yours too. Because in the end, the salary trap was never about your paycheck. It was about believing your paycheck was enough. The day you stop believing that is the day your journey toward real financial freedom begins. If this video changed the way you think about money, then you're exactly who this channel is for. Every week, we break down the psychology of wealth, the hidden rules of money, and the strategies that help ordinary people build extraordinary financial futures. If you don't want to spend the next 30 years working hard without getting ahead, subscribe and join us for the next lesson. Because earning more money can improve your lifestyle, but understanding money can change your life. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.